Hello, Pisces rising. I'm Britten LaRue, and this is Scopes Unshamed for April 2026. This is my first ever Pisces rising Scopes Unshamed. Welcome. Here we go. So, I imagine that the last couple of months have been a little bit soupier than normal, a little bit like, I don't know, like your compass got wet and isn't functioning. And there may have been some confusions around who you are, where you're going, and how you want to steer the ship of your life, so to speak. And exciting news, that's all passing. Elementally, April is very different than the last couple of months. There's a lot of forward moving energy, a lot of go energy. In fact, just like so much energy that sometimes it may feel a little overwhelming to feel so much like the desire to really move on things and like get all of these different projects going. And it's like, how can you do it all with the constraints of time and how to be gentle with yourself when we do have limits on our resources and there's only so much that we can give ourselves in terms of resources to flow on anything in a given time. So I would say that straight out of the gates, something to really be mindful of in the month of April is that feeling of urgency. Urgency is very related to scarcity. It's a kind of scarcity of time. It's just sense of like it has to be right now. And I'm inviting you to trust in your abilities for flow. Just trust that when something needs to move, the energy can just flow towards it. And you don't have to take everything to the finish line all at once. And that it will feel so much better if you just keep your attention on one thing at a time and move things along. And along the way, maybe not in April, but at some point, you will really see how you've moved a lot along. But you can't move everything along all at once. So I think it's a compassion practice as well as a comedy practice. to You have to laugh. Laughing is alchemical, especially when you're like really serious from urgency, because urgency is very serious. Urgency is not very fun, you know? So if it's not feeling fun and it's feeling tight, this is when it's time to bring in some comedy. Okay, bring in some comedy, bring in some compassion, bring in some magic. Relax and just turn towards the thing you're most excited to move forward. So let's get a little more specific. So we're going to be beginning the month with a full moon. And this full moon may really bring up something something pretty deep and vulnerable. It could be money related, the vulnerability of money, the vulnerability of what you share or what of yours is in other people's hands. Maybe your money is in other people's hands. Maybe your heart is in other people's hands. Maybe your secrets are in other people's hands. Maybe your sense of internal safety feels like it's in other people's hands. And so this full moon may really it may really bring up a kind of the vulnerability of the human experience and how scary it is to have parts of ourselves in the care of others and how we are here to care for one another, but over the course of our lives, we also harm each other in these very same ways. We fall short, we are messy, we are all wounded ourselves. And so it's frightening, vulnerable business to be tethered and tied to one another. And like wherever you are in that may be up at the beginning of the month for whatever reason, whether it's an encounter, an experience. And I think it's really inviting you to see both where you trust and where you don't trust in human beings, as well as these systems that are created by human beings. And in truth, there's a lot to not trust about the things that human beings create and human beings themselves in our timeline. So this also wants a lot of compassion because there's probably a lot of intelligence to where you don't trust. And it's not a matter of like trust or don't trust, and it's shameful to not trust or shameful to trust. It's really about just knowing yourself and like knowing like where am I in the business of trusting and not trusting, in the vulnerable business of being alive where a lot about me is in other people's hands. And how am I doing with that? And where is it awesome and beautiful? Because some of our most intimate, profound relationships come from the vulnerability of holding one another these ways. So, mhm. Yeah. And then the rest of the month, there's going to be such a strong focus on your own abundance, your livelihood, the ways that you resource and self resource in order to take care of yourself, in order to provide for yourself. And not all of this is financial, a lot is, but it's that sense of like food's in the fridge, money's in the bank, I have what I need, roofs overhead. Everybody's very, 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 very different, one to the next person. Even people who live together have differing sensibilities around like what is needed to feel safe, financially secure, protected in this world, abundant, in flow, in prosperity, in my livelihood. And in many ways, like this is also very vulnerable business because yeah, trusting in ourselves to be the ones who are tapped into our own prosperity is not a simple thing. I really didn't get confronted with my own journey with that until midlife when I suddenly now needed to support myself and didn't trust myself and didn't think I could. I felt like a child. So I really had to learn how to resource myself. What are my resources? Like, what in me is an abundant thing that generates abundance? Huge story. And so, for you, Pisces rising, the month of April, there's going to be a lot of energy in this department. You may be like more focused on your finances than you usually are. You may feel extremely driven to be risky and gutsy and like go for it because this is the Aries that we're talking about. And some part of you just may be like very fuck it, like impulsive. I trust it. It's an instinct. I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna be bold. because some part of you is feeling like it's time to be that to do this. But then there might be other parts of you that may have memory of not being able to trust yourself or memory of disappointment, where it just feels like there's a heavy wall that's like trying to tell you to be hyper vigilant against bravery and against trusting in the leap because you need the guarantees and you need to be responsible and you need to, and you've proven that you don't know how to be a good authority here. So this is a huge journey period for you, depending on where you are in your life, in your own sense of maturity around yourself as an abundant being in connection to the regenerativity of nature. If somebody asked me about that 10 years ago, this would have been a very scary horoscope to receive because I felt completely disempowered. And if somebody tells me that today that this is my horoscope, it'd be like, yeah, I can't wait for April. Watch this. So, where are you, Pisces rising? Where are you? Um, there's also a lot of balm here to soothe you and lift you up and hold you when you're feeling overwhelmed. You have so much joy happening in your hobbies, play states, flow states, maybe with your children, like play, 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 play as a balance to this drive. And also, like, connect to people, be in connections, be in your connections, be in like your communications, your regular classes, your regular people you meet up with. This is a zone where there's like a lot of sweetness right now. And this is where you can feel this resonance of support, that you can hold that frequency of that support in regards to your prosperity and abundance. If you tap into abundance in one part of your life, you know what the frequency is, so you can move it into another part of your life, inviting you to experiment with that in April. Okay, Pisces rising. I'll see you in May.